Full news script. 6 houses. 1 televangelist. A trail of donor dollars leading to gated communities and beachfront condos. Joni Lamb, the embattled leader of Daystar television network, isn't just weathering a leadership crisis. She's built $1 million real estate empire while viewers struggling to pay rent send her their last $20. Public records expose a web of properties, concealed deeds, and ethically bankrupt clergy perks that turn faith into a funding scheme. If you believe ministry shouldn't mint millionaires, hit like, subscribe for accountability journalism, and sound off in the comments. The scale of Lamb's holdings shocks even seasoned watchdogs. 4 homes sprawl across Texas. Another sits in Georgia. Then there's the Florida beach condo, a luxury retreat far removed from the modest living preached on Daystar's broadcasts. This isn't gradual accumulation, it's aggressive portfolio building, especially following her husband Marcus Lamb's death. Records suggest Lamb acquired the Florida condo and a Texas property after Marcus passed, raising immediate red flags about the funding source. Where does a ministry CEO find cash for waterfront investments while running a faith-based network? The Trinity Foundation, a group tracking religious financial abuse, pegs the total value near $1 million. For congregants donating grocery money hoping for divine breakthroughs, Lamb's 6-door reality is a slap in the face. It epitomizes the grotesque disconnect between pulpit promises and executive privilege. Think this is excessive? Comment accountability now below, like to demand transparency, and subscribe. The property trail gets murkier. Investigators discovered Lamb still owns her original 1991 home in Kville, Texas, a fact allegedly hidden by county records. Why obscure a decades-old deed? Concealment fuels suspicion, suggesting efforts to downplay her footprint. This isn't accidental bureaucracy, it's a pattern. When ministries avoid scrutiny, every lost document whispers guilt. The hidden Kville house symbolizes a broader truth. Lamb's empire thrives in shadows, far from the transparency she owes the pensioners funding her broadcasts. So how did she pay for it all? Leaked court documents point to Word of God Fellowship, Daystar's parent organization, showering the Lambs with over $1.6 million in clergy housing allowances between 2002 to 2011. But here's the scandal. Lamb reportedly collected allowances for 2 homes simultaneously after buying a second Texas property in 2004. While technically legal if both are ministry-related, the optics reek of greed. Did Lamb genuinely use both homes for religious work? Or was this a loophole exploited to double-dip into donor funds? No independent audit exists. Meanwhile, Trinity Foundation investigators suspect Marcus Lamb's life insurance policies, purchased by the ministry as investments, may have bankrolled Joni's post-mortem acquisitions. Imagine, viewers weeping during donation drives, believing their cash supports global evangelism, while it secures beach condos via morbid financial bets on deceased congregants. The moral bankruptcy is staggering. Daystar's financial opacity isn't an oversight, it's policy. By registering as a church, Lamb's empire dodges mandatory IRS Form 990 filings that would force disclosure of salaries, property deals, and allowance details. This legal loophole transforms Daystar into a black box. Donors pour money in, Lamb's real estate portfolio grows, zero accountability comes out. Contrast this with Gateway Church's recent scramble for credibility after its own scandal. Gateway, reeling from Robert Morris's resignation over abuse allegations, publicly committed to joining the Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, ECFA, a body requiring independent audits and transparency. Lamb. Silence. Defiance. She platformed controversial figure Pete, accused of prophetic manipulation, on Daystar while the property revelation swirled. Gateway seeks rehabilitation. Lamb builds another garage. The human cost is devastating. While Lamb curates her property collection, donors trapped in prosperity theologies lie face crushing reality. They're told, sow $100, reap $1,000. Break poverty's curse. Yet Lamb's own network offers no proof their funds build anything but equity. Retirees choose between medications and seed offerings. Single moms send rent money, hoping for a miracle, only to see Lamb acquire a 4th Texas home. When blessings don't materialize, the blame shifts. You didn't have enough faith. You harbored sin. Asterisk, it's a spiritual shakedown. The lavish properties aren't just assets, they're monuments to exploitation. Victim of prosperity gospel? Share your story below. Like if you're angry, subscribe to expose the truth. Joni Lamb's 6 properties aren't merely extravagant, they're a forensic map of systemic corruption. Every deed, from the hidden Quill house to the Florida condo, traces back to donor dollars funneled through darkness. The dual housing allowances, a masterclass in twisting sacred trust into personal slush funds. The church registration, a legal shield against scrutiny. The life insurance speculation, ghoulish profiteering disguised as ministry. This isn't leadership, it's looting. The deliberate effort to shroud this empire in shadows adds another layer of disturbing intent. Investigators faced unusual hurdles confirming Lamb's continued ownership of the original 1991 Quill, Texas, property. County records, typically accessible public documents, displayed inconsistencies or omissions regarding this specific deed. Why obscure a decades-old house? In the carefully managed world of televangelism finance, concealment serves a strategic purpose. Hidden assets deflect uncomfortable questions about proportionality and stewardship. They prevent donors from easily connecting their sacrificial gifts to specific luxury assets. That unassuming Quill house, deliberately faded from the public property map, becomes a potent symbol for Daystar's entire operation. A ministry thriving in calculated obscurity, its financial realities shielded from the very congregation whose devotion illuminates its stage lights. This enforced murkiness forces accountability to rely on the painstaking work of watchdog groups like Trinity Foundation, who must pry open sealed court documents and parse complex legal filings, transforming ordinary believers who simply sought spiritual nourishment into unwilling detectives in a financial mystery
Unraveling
they never
the funding
consented to solve. Reveals mechanisms that border on the morally grotesque. Landmark court documents unearthed by investigators detail how Word of God Fellowship, Daystar's controlling entity, channeled a staggering $1.6 million directly into the Lamb family coffers under the label of clergy housing allowances during just a 9-year window between 2002 and 2011. However, the true ethical rupture surfaces in 2004. Evidence suggests Lamb began claiming simultaneous housing allowances for 2 distinct Texas properties. While the Internal Revenue Code technically permits multiple housing allowances if each residence demonstrably serves a ministry function, the burden of proving that legitimate, active religious work occurs in both homes rests entirely on Lamb. Her consistent, deafening silence on this crucial point speaks louder than any sermon. Were these secondary estates truly bustling hubs for prayer retreats, pastoral counseling, or housing visiting missionaries? Or were they merely lavish personal residences transformed into tax-free income streams, cleverly disguised as divinely sanctioned necessities? The absence of any public accounting or independent verification paints a damning picture of loopholes exploited for personal enrichment. Further compounding this financial maze, investigators point towards Marcus Lamb's involvement in so-called dead peasant or janitor's insurance policies. These are controversial life insurance schemes where Daystar, as the policyholder and beneficiary, took out policies on the lives of individuals, potentially including employees or associates, profiting directly upon their deaths. Imagine the profound moral inversion. An elderly widow mails her modest Social Security check, believing she's supporting global evangelism, only to discover it might have indirectly padded a multimillion-dollar insurance payout that later funded the down payment on Joni Lamb's oceanfront Florida balcony. The transformation of human mortality into a revenue stream fueling luxury real estate acquisitions represents a chilling perversion of any faith-based mission. The fallout is theological as much as financial.
6
Lamb's
properties,
empire exposes
4 in
prosperity
Texas,
gospel's
1 in
hollowness.
Georgia,
While
and
she
a
amasses real
beachfront
estate,
condo in Florida.
the faithful foot the
That's
bill
the
and
real
reap empty
estate
promises.
portfolio of Joni
Gateway
Lamb,
Church's ECFA
co-founder
move
of
proves
Daystar
accountability is
Television
possible,
Network.
but Lamb's
But here's
defiance
the
reveals her
question.
priority.
How did she
Protecting the
acquire
machine,
them?
not the faithful.
And more
Her
importantly,
platforming of figures
where
like
did the
Pete
money come
amidst
from?
scandal screams contempt
Allegations
for her
are
audience.
swirling about
3
the misuse
truths
of
emerge.
housing allowances
First,
funded
religious
by her
tax
ministry.
exemptions demand
Word
reform,
of God Fellowship.
allowing churches
Today, we're
like
diving
Daystar
deep
to
into the
operate as
financial
financial black
practices
holes
of one of
enables
the most
abuse.
prominent figures
Second,
in Christian
prosperity
media.
theology
Buckle
is
up.
predatory.
This story
it
is
weaponizes
as
hope to
complex
extract
as
wealth
it is
from the vulnerable.
controversial.
Third,
Joni Lamb
sunlight
owns
remains
6
the cure.
homes across the country.
Public records,
For
like
are
those
in
unearthed by
Texas,
Trinity
where
Foundation,
Daystar
are
is
vital
headquartered.
scalpels cutting through
One
the
is in
lies.
Georgia,
Lamb's
and then there's the
defiance won't
beachfront
last.
condo in Florida.
Every hidden deed,
a luxury
every
retreat
unexplained
that
allowance,
many would
every
dream of
tearful
owning.
story of donor
But for a
hardship
ministry
builds the
leader,
wave.
This
Ministries
raises
can't
eyebrows.
peddle eternity while
Why does
hoarding
one
earthly
person
treasures.
need 6
The
properties?
reckoning isn't about real
Supporters
estate.
argue that
It's
these
about
homes could
restoring
be used for
stolen
ministry
dignity.
purposes,
Donors
such as
must
hosting
revolt.
events, providing
Regulators
lodging for
must
guests,
act.
or
And Lamb,
even as
she
retreat
must
centers
choose
for staff and
transparency
volunteers.
or oblivion.
But critics are
houses
questioning
stand.
whether they're
The
more
clock
about
ticks.
personal luxury
Enough
than
is
serving
enough.
the community.
Demand
After
justice
all,
in the comments.
maintaining multiple
Like if
properties
you'll
comes with
hashtag defund
significant
Daystar.
costs, property
Subscribe.
taxes,
The truth
maintenance,
is just getting
utilities,
started.
and more.